This is Jesse Austin with Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I'm host today of Making Connections, and today we have two very special guests talking about a fun and informative event that's going to be taking place on Saturday, April 13th. I have with me today Sharon Schwab, and to my far left is Becky Brathal. And they'll be talking about this event in greater detail. And without further ado, why don't we just get started talking about the Prairie Chicken Festival.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse. Really appreciate this opportunity, both Becky and I. Well, the Wisconsin Prairie Chicken Festival, this is its third year, and we're very excited about it. If anyone remembers the huge snowstorm last year of April 12th, that was the time of last year's Prairie Chicken Festival, but it still went on.
And you decided to have it earlier this year?
Well, one day later, actually. But
that's
one
right.
day later.
That's
but
right.
We're thinking the weather will be a little more conducive.
Okay.
But greater prairie chickens are a Native American grouse. They are here in central Wisconsin, where they have a stronghold, a foothold here at the Buena Vista Wildlife Area, the Paul Olson Wildlife Area, parts of Loyola, and a little bit of Meade Wildlife Area. So we're very fortunate to have this threatened state bird here remaining and holding strong here in central Wisconsin. They are a remarkable species. They give a performance like none other when it comes to their reproductive time frame, which beginning in February, you can start to hear this kind of low guttural sounds out in some of the open fields. And these prairie chickens will dance and whoop and holler and stomp just to attract the ladies. So we take this opportunity in order to get birders, either experienced or no experience at all, out into a prairie chicken blind where they can observe them very close, even as close as you and I are sitting, because the males are so intent on finding a girlfriend that they just don't even know what's going on around them. So people get this really unique opportunity to get really close. So that's one opportunity. That's the first opportunity I'll talk about, and then I'll turn to Becky to talk about some other opportunities. The prairie chicken blind experience is one in which people can go into these small wooden blinds and then be very close to where prairie chickens will do their performance. They perform in an open area, most typically, where they have a good 360-degree view, because they're always looking out for predators and things that might not want them to be around. So with that, they will come in and dance and perform, and like I said, to attract the females. Those blinds are placed on these large open areas, which are known as booming grounds or leks. And typically these are traditional or historical sites where they will return year after year after year to do their dancing performance. Unfortunately, the blind opportunities, of which we have 16 spots on April the 13th, are already booked.
Oh my.
But that doesn't mean they can't have an opportunity before or after those dates. So if they do let us know that they're interested, there is an email address which we'll share with you. We can always put them on the cancellation list or let them know where they might have the same opportunity a day or two later. But that does start early. It starts at 4:30 in the morning, so this is not for the faint of heart. And you got to be out there and don't drink a lot of coffee, because once you're in a prairie chicken blind, you got to sit there for a couple hours and there's no going to the bathroom. So we have guides that will walk you out into the blinds, and you sit there very quietly until the sun is just peeking out. And sometimes you'll hear something flutter in, or you'll hear something walk in, and then you'll hear this low sound, and the males, their air sacs will expand, they're bright orange, and then their pinnae, their head feathers will go straight up, their tails will flush out and kind of snap, and then they'll jump up and down really, really fast, or their legs will stomp up really, really fast. So it's just an amazing thing to see. People come from all over the country, in fact, all over the world, to see this kind of thing where you can't see it very many places in the United States anymore. So it's a remarkable opportunity, but if you can't do that at 4:30 in the morning, you can do the next item, which is the birding tour.
So if you want to sleep in just a little bit, we do have a birding tour starting at 6 o'clock. And then you'll have the opportunity to go around with two guides on a bus and we'll go to different spots, and then you can possibly hear prairie chickens, but then you also get to experience our other great grassland birds and get to see other migrating waterfowl as they're coming through the area this time of year.
And you were mentioning that they have how long is their mating season? It's from February, you said?
Well, they'll start performing or bunching up in February, March. Normally the breeding season is typically the second or third week in April is when the males are really at their peak. And so most of the females will kind of saunter, meander into the leks, check out the guys, decide who might be interesting, and the mating is a very quick thing, actually. Not much, you wouldn't even know it happened, to be honest. But so if it's successful, they will then go to an area that has a lot of residual grass. That's why this is at the Paul Olson Wildlife Area. This booming occurs on one of the local farms. That's Carl Flagg's farm, and that's where these prairie chicken blinds are. And then there's a lot of state land around that has a great deal of residual grass. Typically the females will nest between a half a mile or a mile from where they were bred. And if they have an unsuccessful nest, if it's predated and the like, the males will hang out for a month or so more. So if she isn't successful, she may come back and visit them again.
Very accommodating.
Very accommodating. But, the grassland birding tour is fabulous. They might see all kinds of migrants, like Becky said. Maybe we could talk about some of the other grassland birds that they might encounter.
So meadowlarks, I've actually heard meadowlarks now. I was out in the field earlier this week and I heard meadowlarks, so you'll definitely be able to hear those ones. And the sparrows will be back, and of course the ducks and geese and the swans and the bluebirds. All those birds will still be around. So
we've got some great guides too. Dr. Kent Hall, many people around here know him. He's known as Dr. Bluebird. If you've got a bluebird box in your yard, it was probably one that Kent put up. They have hundreds and hundreds of bluebird boxes here and around the Wisconsin Rapids area. So Dr. Hall will be one of the guides, and then Stan Skuchek, who's a retired U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologist. Both of them are amazing birders. And there's lots of room left on that tour. So I would encourage that. Maybe we should tell them how to register.
So if you would like to register, it's all online registration, so you can go to www.showtix4u.com. So that's show, SHOWTIX, the number 4, the letter U.com. And then search Wisconsin Prairie Chicken Festival, and that'll bring you to the site. And then you can choose from the different options that we've talked about, not the blinds, because you're a little late, but the birding tour, and then and the luncheon in the afternoon. And then if you want to, you can stop by the library. We'll have a free showing of a public television recording of our birds that talks about the trips that our native birds do to South America.
Yeah.
And that bird film, Our Birds, it talks in great detail about the efforts that people in Wisconsin, in particular, are making to help preserve these endangered species. Is that not correct?
That is correct. I think it's Craig Thompson is one of the persons currently working for the DNR, if I'm not mistaken. There's a place in central Costa Rica on the Pacific side where a lot of our Wisconsin birds go into central Costa Rica and parts of Central America and South America. It's quite a remarkable journey to understand where our Wisconsin birds travel to.
Wow.
It's remarkable. Yeah. It's just remarkable. So people don't understand that some of these birds are taking, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5,000 mile trips in order to get here, right here to central Wisconsin. It's remarkable.
That is truly remarkable.
I want to tell you a little bit about those people that are either in the blinds or those people that are going on the Grassland Bird Tour, is that we've got a great troop of Boy Scouts. Scout Troop 187. For years, they have done this Dutch oven breakfast. It's at Siegel Town Hall, and that's the meeting place for both the Grassland Bird Tour or the blinds. And these guys, these young boys, do a fantastic job with their leaders of making a great breakfast. So even if you don't want a bird, you might want to eat. So I encourage you to support them and get out and consider, going out to Siegel Town Hall that morning. Breakfast starts about 7:30. So that's another opportunity, just if nothing else, to support them. But we do hope that people will sign up for the birding tour, because there is room.
There's definitely room.
Definitely room. I think we're not even half full yet, so there's still plenty of time.
Yep.
Which would be really great.
And as Becky mentioned earlier, you are having this event take place at a variety of venues.
Yes.
You mentioned the luncheon, and that's at NEPCO
County Park.
There.
Yep.
And that's going to include exhibits and speakers and workshops. So
Yes.
we'll be involved in that aspect of the program, because that's taking place around, what time is that going to be?
So exhibitors and vendors, if you would like to be one, you can sign up at the same place. So they'll show up at about 11, but so starting at noon is where we're going to start the luncheon, and the keynote speaker is going to be Kurt Miney, and he's going to be talking about Aldo Leopold, prairie chickens, and grassland conservation. So Kurt Miney is a scholar of Aldo Leopold, and he works for the Aldo Leopold Foundation. So he's a great speaker, and so looking forward to hearing him speak. You want to do Dr. Dan Kepi?
Oh, I certainly can, and I don't think I brought his bio along, but did you bring that along? Thank you very much. So he's a retired professor and researcher. Some of the very first censusing and surveying that went up at the Paul Olson Wildlife Area, chicken counts, the census of how many chickens were there and why, was done by Dr. Kepi. So Dr. Kepi is coming back here 40 years later to talk about his early experiences in central Wisconsin at the Paul Olson Wildlife Area, and that's going to be very interesting. His title of his talk is Early History at the Paul J. Olson Wildlife Area and Contemporary Ideas About Grouse. And that's an important second part of that, because North American grouse are declining all over, and most of that is due to habitat loss. It doesn't take much to drive around to see how much of our land use is changing, some positive, some negative, but when it comes to native grouse that need large expanses of contiguous land, for example, for successful prairie chicken success, you need about 300 contiguous acres of grassland. So whenever that gets broken up, and it's difficult for some of these grouse species to make it. So in areas all over the country, their numbers are declining. So I presume he'll be talking a little bit about that. And following, we have our very own Lisa Kardash, who's a wildlife biologist here in central Wisconsin for DNR. She's going to talk about some of the current census methods and what they're finding out about our native prairie chicken here. So I'll turn it back to you.
And then, so our next speaker is going to be Karen Jockola, who is a Minnesota pollinator conservation planner and NRCS partner. And so she's going to talk about bees are not optional, benefits from pollinator conservation. And so she works for the Xerces Society, which is an organization that focuses on insects, North American insects, and how we can do better, including all of our pollinators, and how even our pollinators have impacts on prairie chickens. And so she's going to bring in the pollinator aspect of it. And then afterwards, we're going to have Thelma Heidel-Baker, who's an entomologist, and she has an organic farm down in southeast Wisconsin, and she's going to talk about wildlife grazing on a grazing dairy farm, and so how she implements using insects in a beneficial way to benefit her farming practices. And so agriculture is a huge part of central Wisconsin, and working together with agriculture can have benefits for our native grasslands, on our native habitats. And so she's going to talk about how those two worlds can come together and work together.
Absolutely. They feed off of one another, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that'll be the second branch of this, and then we've already discussed the third part of this, which is the film Our Birds, which will be taking place at McMillan Memorial Library here in Wisconsin Rapids. And those showings are 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
And I want to talk a little bit about food. So there's a luncheon.
Yes.
There's a luncheon at the county park. Important part. And it's all going to be locally sourced. So that's going to be an exciting component of that. And the Chatterbox restaurant is the one that is catering the luncheon. And so that they always do a good job. And so that ought to be really excellent. So I don't have the menu as yet, but last year it was just great. And I imagine it'll be just great here.
Make it a pleasant surprise for those of you who show up for that event.
Yeah, really good. And you can just come for the lunch and the speakers. You don't have to do anything else. And that's, maybe we should talk about some of the prices. That might be good. We want to let people know this is not an expensive event. But if you come for the luncheon and all the speakers in the afternoon, and you'll see the vendors and the exhibitors, that's $15 per person. There's also a student rate of $9, so that's really great. So if you want your kids to just hear these great speakers, that'd be great. Same thing for the Grassland Bird Tour, $15. $9 for students. So, and a student is anyone college age and down. So we're really trying to make this available to anyone who's a student. And the other one, again, the Prairie Chicken blinds are full, so we're not even going to tell you the price.
Yep, and then the movie Our Birds, the 2 showings, those are free.
Outstanding.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to add that you think our viewing audience might want to know about?
Well, I just wanted to show our poster. I'm sure you guys have seen this around town already. And so it has the information, the date, which is April 13th, 2019, which is coming up quickly. And so if you remember, you can register at Showtix for you, www.show, SHOWTIX, the number 4, the letter U.com, and search Wisconsin Prairie Chicken Festival. If you have any questions about this, you can either email us at wisconsinprairiechickenfest@gmail.com, or you can call us at 715-540-0236.
And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank some of the sponsors that we've had. Not only thank your fine station here for giving us this opportunity, but also to give a shout out to Pheasants Forever, Aldo Leopold Audubon Society, Portage County, Planning and Zoning, Bird City, Wisconsin Rapids, Hotel Mead, Wood County, Board of Supervisors, the Planning and Zoning Department as well. Wisconsin Rapids Convention and Visitors Bureau had did this beautiful poster for us. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, Dane County Conservation League, and Clean Green Action, Wisconsin Rapids.
Okay. Well, Sharon and Becky, thank you so much for joining us today to tell us all this wonderful information about, as I said before, a fun and informative event, the Prairie Chicken Festival 2019, taking place at several venues throughout central Wisconsin, Saturday, April 13th. And again, Sharon Schwab, Becky Brathal, thank you so much for joining us today on this edition of Making Connections.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So with that, that'll conclude this episode of Making Connections. Hope to look forward to seeing you next month for another episode. Take care.